He built their house.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the September 5th, 2023 Planning Commission work session. I would like to start by welcoming the Deputy City Manager, Mr. Woods. We appreciate you being here today. And we have two representatives from the Environmental Protection Agency. We'd like to welcome them as well.
Thank you.
Our newest commissioner, Shonda Taylor.
Hi.
And Mr. Landfair, I think this is the first time that you
Yes, it is.
welcome.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hines will join us at 1:30.
No, Commissioner Curry.
Commissioner Curry, I'm sorry, I'm
Okay.
corrected. Commissioner Curry will join us at 1:30. So, Ms. Adamwa, if you'd like to go ahead and start.
Yes, let's do it. Again, we welcome everyone to the meeting. You do have the schedule before you. Our first case is UP 2312. Ms. Amy Mervine will give a summary of that.
All right. Good afternoon, Planning Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
I am Amy Mervine, Senior Planner with the City of Portsmouth. This use permit application request before you today is to operate a child day center on an approximate 1.75 acre parcel at 670 Lincoln Street in Suite 664. The property is located in the Downtown Special District D1 SD zoning subdistrict. The building was constructed in 1953, has multiple suites, and contains approximately 22,000 square feet of floor space. The applicant proposes to utilize Suite 664, which contains approximately 7,867 square feet for a child day center use. The building was previously occupied by the Hampton Roads Community Health Center and other commercial type land uses. The parcel abuts 7th Street, Lincoln Street, and Green Street. And this was, just as a reminder, this was deferred from the July 18th Planning Commission public hearing. The surrounding area consists of commercial, residential, and industrial type land uses. To the east of the subject property across 7th Street is an industrial commercial type land use zoned D1 SD. To the west across Green Street is vacant land followed by a convenience store with gasoline sales zoned general mixed use GMU. To the north is vacant land in a government office building zoned D1 SD followed by Randolph Street. To the south across Lincoln Street are detached single-family residences zoned multifamily urban residential URM. The applicant's proposal is to utilize Suite 664 at 670 Lincoln Street to operate a child day center called Gentle Touch Learning Center. A proposed 2,500 square foot playground area is proposed adjoining the building within a portion of the existing parking lot, as noted in blue on the conceptual area plan. Gentle Touch Learning Center is proposing to provide a learning center operating Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. with 120 children ranging from 12 weeks of age up to 12 years old. Staffing will consist of 16 to 20 employees. The Child Day Center use specific standards within the zoning ordinance requires an outdoor play area. The play area is proposed to be placed on top of the existing asphalt and no land disturbance is proposed at this time. The applicant is proposing to open 8 walls, remove 2 countertop desk spaces, and provide a kitchen area as noted in the application and the conceptual floor plan shown here. The subject property is located within the ABEX Superfund site. From 1928 to 1978, the ABEX Corporation Railroad Products Group operated a brass and bronze foundry nearby. Lead-contaminated soil was found in a number of adjacent properties. In 1990, the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, added the site to the National Priorities List as the ABEX Corporation Superfund site. Following extensive cleanup efforts, the remediation was declared complete by the EPA in 2009. Any proposed development shall be in compliance with prescribed EPA regulations for the Superfund site as well as City Code Section 11, Article 2, excavation requirements for ABEX Superfund site. No land disturbance is proposed by the applicant at this time. The EPA provided a formal letter attached in Appendix F of the staff report regarding the proposed Child Day Center use at 670 Lincoln Street. The EPA provided remediation efforts and reasonable steps recommended for the city to require prior to operating a child day center use at the subject property relating to hazardous substance contamination. The reasonable steps include recognizing and adhering to all existing and future land use restrictions and institutional controls, adhering to all excavation requirements set forth by the EPA and City Code, notifying EPA and VA DEQ in writing upon discovery of conditions of the subject property that may adversely affect or interfere with the implementation, protectiveness, or effectiveness of the response activities at the ABEX site, shall not extract or use groundwater for any purpose other than response activities for the ABEX at the ABEX site, shall not, I missed a sentence, shall not, oh, sorry, I merged these two sentences together. It's a mouthful, I promise. Okay. Shall not extract or use groundwater for any purpose other than construction dewatering, provide EPA, VA, DEQ, and other responsible parties for the ABEX site with access to the property for 5-year review activities, and other responsible parties for ABEX site with access to the property for 5-year review activities, monitoring compliance with institutional controls and other work relating to the circular response action at the site, ensure appropriate measure during any construction, perform a lead risk assessment including but not limited to interior and exterior dust wipe sampling of the building, including ventilation system, material sampling for lead, and evaluate the parking lot for lead dust and other potential constituents. Staff has incorporated the reasonable steps as proposed by the EPA within the proposed conditions of this use permit request. The Planning Department requested a third-party firm to review the sampling report submitted by the owner to staff attached in Appendix E of the staff report. Stokes Environmental and Applied Lab Services reviewed the documentation and spoke with the EPA regarding the status of the former ABEX Superfund site. As mentioned in the attachment, site remediation has been completed and there is unlikely to be additional remediation proposed by the EPA. However, the site has not been administratively released by the EPA. The recommendations as provided by the third-party firm have been incorporated as part of the conditions of this use permit. The property is designated on the future land use map of the comprehensive plan for mixed-use employment. Staff recommends denial of the applicant's use permit request. Staff requested site-specific guidance from the EPA for a child day center use located in the ABEX Superfund site to understand any impacts to children that will be serviced at the facility. The EPA responded with a formal letter explaining the remediation efforts in the area and reasonable steps related to the hazardous contamination found at the site. The subject property remedial action appeared to be based under the commercial and industrial standards, not residential standards. A third-party firm reviewed the site sampling reports submitted by the owner to staff and have provided their recommendations prior to operating the child day center use. Although no land disturbance is proposed and the use is consistent with the recommendations of the city's Build One Portsmouth comprehensive plan, with a formal letter from the EPA regarding the impacts of conducting a child day center use at the subject property located within the ABEX Superfund site that will result in children being present on the property for multiple hours per day, staff recommends denial of this request. To my knowledge, no public comments were received regarding this application. And I will now sit by for any questions. I know that was a lot.
Ms. Mervine, appreciate it. Commissioners, any questions?
Yes, I do have a question. Were you able to reach out to the State of Virginia Licensing Division that is in charge of licensing daycare facilities? Were you able to have a conversation with them?
I did not.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, any additional questions?
Now, I would like to know, and I'm sorry,
That's all right.
the name of the gentleman right here to your right. I'm sorry, I don't know you.
It's Bill. Last name is Landfair.
Landfair?
Landfair.
Okay, and what is your position? Because I can't see that far.
Oh, I'm a principal planner in the
Okay.
department.
Okay, thank you.
Have an item
introduced
before
him.
you today.
I probably didn't do it, because I wouldn't have
It's
asked again if
okay.
I had.
It's okay. Commissioners, any additional questions? I have a question. In reading the letter that the EPA provided, it did state in there that if I interpret it correctly, that no one should spend more than 2.5 hours inside that building. Is that correct? Or have I oversimplified it?
I'll defer to the EPA.
That's me. Hi, I'm the toxicologist assigned to the site. So I actually did the risk analysis. So that particular analysis of 2.5 is for outdoor activities.
Okay.
So what I did was we use a formula. We have a formula that we use. We set a goal. We'll say, I don't want the child to be exposed to any more than 200 milligrams per kilograms per soil. I set that goal, and then I actually put in that formula the actual concentration that is present at the site.
Okay.
The last concentration we had said that the average was 314. The 314 parts per million, or milligrams per kilogram, which exceeds the criteria that that CDC, Center for Disease Control, has established. They say the goal should not be above 200 right now. Actually, they're going down even further, but that's the number we're working with right now is 200. So I'll put that 200 in, that formula plus the current number, and some bunch of math that you guys, I'm not going to bore you with. It spits out, it tells me, well, if it's exposed at 1 day, this is how much the concentration could be. 2 days, this concentration. 3 days, this concentration. 4 days, this and I look at those concentration ranges, and I said, okay, anything that is going to exceed that how many days will exceed that 200 is a problem. And that's where I get the 2.5 days, but that is for outdoor activities only.
Not indoor.
We have not, that doesn't mean indoor shouldn't be evaluated, but when we look at indoor as well as outdoor. And that is just an outdoor evaluation.
Okay.
Just so that you know, we have no information on the indoor, and Lisa might want to speak on that.
So what I'll say is, generally the CDC says no child should be exposed to lead.
Correct.
Right? I mean, the EPA and CDC have different laws, and we have different purposes, right? So EPA, we're cleaning up Superfund sites, and we set levels, and we clean up to a certain level. ABEX site's been a cleanup site for a very long time. The cleanup levels were set at a certain point in time, and it was never designed to have children on site. So it's challenging to basically go back and figure out what would the exposure be. The challenge for the city is to decide how much effort and how much the applicant wants to put forward in order to protect the children at a Superfund site that has lead. And that is really up for, to me, that's really the decision that the city needs to make is, where you all want to be on that. But the number is really a risk-based calculation based on how much time a child might be outside. And so the indoor number would be based on, if you were going to try and calculate an indoor number, you would have to basically take wipe samples. We'd have to figure out what's inside the building, where you want to be. There's a lot of things that would play into that, in figuring that out.
Yeah.
Okay. Which leads me to my next question. It's my understanding that building was built in the 50s. The subject was built in the 50s. And the lead was not discovered until the 90s. That structure is on a slab. When you clean up a parcel such as that, you don't clean up, obviously you didn't bulldoze that one. What was done to that property?
So that building in particular was not cleaned inside. So at the time of the cleanup, when things were really happening and we were moving, people from their homes and demolishing structures and such, EPA had actually sampled inside people's homes and, were sampling the HVAC systems, cleaned HVAC systems before they were eventually demolished. That particular shopping center never went through any of that. It was a commercial building. The risk calculations that were being done it just wasn't on the radar at the time for that part of the cleanup. I suppose if you had looked at it then and said, oh, we want to put kids in here, you might have approached it differently, and EPA would have taken that future use into consideration. But at that time, it was not part of the cleanup. So that would certainly be an element, and that's what we try and discuss in the letter, is we would recommend that that be required in order to have children in that building.
I want to just inject one thing. that is, to me, from the toxicologist, I keep my hat on, I'm always thinking in terms of risk. So when they did that analysis of those homes before they demolished them, and they went inside and did the wipe sampling, they found lead. I want to make that clear. They found lead, and they were attempting to clean it, but the community was complaining. They didn't want to be there. They didn't care how much cleaning you're going to do. I don't want to be here. This is dangerous.
Right.
So eventually EPA made the decision to demolish it. But I think the important part to remember is that when we did our wipe sampling, we did find lead in the interior of those homes prior to demolition.
Okay,
That's something to keep in mind.
thank you. Commissioners, any additional questions?
I do. I have
Commissioner Jiggins?
one. Going back to the building that used to be, if I'm not incorrect, is where the Norfolk Healthcare.
But it wasn't a mobile?
No.
They occupied, so
Yeah.
the Hampton Roads Health Center
Yeah,
occupied
occupied.
several
Yeah.
storefronts at some point.
Right.
We did just drive by there, and it looked
Yeah.
like there were still some health facilities in there, but it's
No,
been
'cause
rented.
they built a brand new facility
building.
on High Street.
Okay.
They're using that building for stuff. It looks like it's
They're
being,
using
or at
it
least
for
the place next door. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
We
mean-
saw somebody coming in and out of the building. We just was there.
Yeah, we just drove by this morning.
So
So,
someone occupying it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the health center there, and they participated in public meetings that we've held here in the city before. So they are, and they actually did some of the blood testing that we had. We had an event several years ago where we had children and adults could get their blood tested for lead, and they participated and supported EPA in that event. So we are a little familiar with them, and they are aware
Yeah.
of the Superfund site.
Okay, because I guess my question would speak to, it was okay for the adult employees to be in the building, but not necessarily for children.
That's
That's what I'm
correct.
trying to get to.
The calculations and the way these, yeah, I'll let you talk about it.
So lead is a problem for children, not adults.
Childbearing.
Not unless you're like in the lead manufacturing industry and you got tons of it, then it's a problem for adults.
Okay.
But children don't need, they only need little bit, they don't need very much at all for it to have irrevert, like you cannot change it. It lowers IQ. It's been connected to a variety of problems, health problems. Mostly, there's a large prison population associated, and they've done studies in prison that show they have high levels of lead. So it's a problem, because although we may want to ignore the lead later, we have these individuals out here who've been exposed, and they tend to have difficulty in life with just learning and just behavior issues, and that goes on through into adulthood. So the children are our main concern and focus when it comes to lead, not adults.
At this moment.
Yeah, well,
We're not factoring in those of us who grew up in this area
Yeah.
with the lead. with
well, then
the
and that
law.
means you were exposed as a child.
That's right.
And now it's in your bone.
That's right.
And the only way it would come out of your bone is if you break it or if you have a child. And so when you have a child and you're pregnant, then the fetus attempts to, it doesn't want the lead, it wants the calcium because it's trying to grow. But then lead attaches to the calcium and comes right on over, and so the child could be poisoned even in utero. But that's an adult exposure scenario. Not to say that it can't happen, and it does happen, and we evaluate that as well. But typically when we evaluate adults, it's when they're working in the environment with lead, not children. Children don't work. So the adults are looked at a little bit differently than children. And their exposures are typically from adult exposures, from working exposures as opposed to from a daycare or something, because we're older now, and once our blood-brain barrier shuts down, we're not going to let it in as readily. Children are still developing, so things are more readily able to enter into their bodies.
Yeah, that's true. I was on the on the Portsmouth Redevelopment Housing Authority before coming on this board, and dealing with the same factor
Yeah.
with some of the public housing projects.
Yeah. So you're right though, because and not just with the West End, even with back in the day, we did they used lead
I
to
know.
do teeth fillings. So when I was in graduate school, I had my lead level tested because I'm an inner city. I'm a product of an inner city. I likely was exposed to lead growing up, and I had I think mine was like 5 micrograms per deciliter. I had they did it's an X-ray, fluorescence. They look through your bone and can tell you how much lead based on your life, how long you know, the age you are now, how much you've been exposed to. So that's just a fancy test, but that's neither here nor there. Okay,
Thank you, Ms. Judith.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have one more. I noticed, and I apologize if it was probably in our packet, but they referenced that the utilities might have to be upgraded in that building as well.
Oh, so are you referring to the engineering comments?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so I think that's more in the public right-of-way, but that if there's any new upgrades, that they would have to then be upgraded as well in the building. Because I do know, I think there's a project in the right-of-way at this point in time.
Like plumbing,
Well, I'm referring to lead solder.
that's what I'm referring
Yeah,
to. The plumbing
exactly.
and the lead solder. That's exactly
Because
what I'm
that could
referring to.
create
That's
another-
correct. That's absolutely.
Okay, all right, thank you so much.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes, all right. Commissioners, if there's nothing else, all right, thank you, Ms. Marvine.
All right, let's go to the next case, UP 2316, Ms. Julie Chow.
Oh, I think we're UP 2310. I mean, UP.
Skip the, I'm sorry, UP 2310. Amy. Sorry.
I was like, I'm back to back. All right.
Sorry, Julie.
Good afternoon again, Planning Commissioners. I am Amy Mervine, Senior Planner with the City of Portsmouth. This use permit application request before you today is to operate an event space banquet hall and an entertainment establishment on approximately 0.26 acres located at 340 High Street in the D1 T5 zoning subdistrict and the Downtown Design Overlay District. The 3-story structure was constructed in 1958 and has a floor area of approximately 33,540 square feet. The building was formerly utilized as part of the Suffolk Tidewater Community Campus with retail sales and has been vacant since approximately 2021. The surrounding area consists of commercial and residential type land uses. The property is on a corner lot that abuts High Street and Court Street. To the east of the subject property is a commercial retail sales establishment zoned D1 T5, and to the west across Court Street is the City of Portsmouth Museums zoned D1 T5. To the north is a commercial building zoned D1 T5, and to the south across High Street is a mixed-use commercial and residential building zoned D1 T5. The applicant is proposing a mixed-use commercial building called the Mustard Seed Place within the downtown area of Portsmouth. The proposed suites on the first and second floor listed within the staff report appear to be permitted by right within the D1 T5 zoning subdistricts. All uses will be formally reviewed by the zoning administrator when a zoning permit / business license zoning clearance application has been submitted and a final determination is made. Oh, did I click too fast? I'm sorry. The third floor and rooftop area are proposed for the event space, banquet hall, and entertainment establishment use for a French-inspired space called Très Élevé, which translates to very high. The applicant proposes to have 2 separate event space areas separated by a soundproof wall. The proposed floor plan includes a prep kitchen area, several bathrooms, groom and bridal suites, storage room, event room, buffet areas, dance floor, seating areas, 2 stairwells, and 2 elevators. The prep kitchen will have a restaurant-quality warmers, refrigeration, counter space, storage, ice machine, and a triple sink for sanitation and cleanup. There will be no cooking on site. The existing floor footprint includes 2 restrooms with the proposed addition of 4 restrooms. The ABC license will be held by Très Élevé. 2 full-time employees, an event sales manager, and an overall operations manager are proposed to operate the venue. The proposal is for the venue to be rented out in 4-hour blocks from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. The building will feature a security reception area near the main entrance of the facility, and security cameras will be located around the building and the parking lot. Oh no, what happened to my... Oh, okay, so I had an aerial that showed where the parking lot was in retrospect to the venue. So I will just go back. So when you look at the map on the left side, I wonder if this will... No, that won't work. So at the intersection of Court Street and Queen Street on the left side, that is where the parking lot's going to be. So I apologize that my aerial did not end up in the slides. So the zoning ordinance section 40.2-301 off-street parking, loading, circulation states that no off-street parking is required for properties zoned D1, T4, D1, T5, or D1, T6 north of Interstate 264. The downtown parking requirement was amended in 2017 zoning ordinance update by removing the requirement of off-street parking in order to promote new growth and development within the downtown area of Portsmouth. The owner owns a private parking lot at the intersection of Court Street and Queen Street and proposes to utilize a valet company for the benefit of all Mustard Seed Place tenants. The applicant informed staff that the parking lot contains approximately 55 spaces. Public parking garages are also located within 500 feet of the proposed establishment. A valet parking plan shall be submitted and approved by the zoning administrator under City Code Section 40.2-301, Section F and 5. Oh, there we go. The property is designated on the future land use map of the comprehensive plan for mixed-use downtown land uses. Staff recommends approval with conditions of the applicant's use permit request. With the recommended conditions, the proposed use is consistent with the recommendations of the city's Build 1 Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan and is appropriate in this location. To my knowledge, one public comment in opposition was received regarding this application and has been provided to the commissioners. I will now sit by for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Marvine. Welcome back, Commissioner G.
Thank you.
Glad you could make it. Any questions for Ms. Marvine?
I
Ms.
do. I have a
applicant?
question
Okay.
pertaining to the parking lot. Did you say they have a contract to buy the parking lot too, or they do not?
Nope, they currently own the parking lot. So it's
Actually
about...
already own the parking lot?
Yes, it's 3 separate parcels right now, but it is all one parking lot.
Okay.
It's
okay,
private.
Because I know at one time PRHA owned it, but you're saying that
Yep, they currently own
they
all 3.
own the
Yep,
parking lot, okay.
yep.
And just for clarity, parking isn't a requirement, though.
Not in the downtown.
No, it's not that.
It's just a plus, yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't need to, I
Yeah.
know that, but I want for clarity, because when I was on the PRHA board, we had this building, and it's been under contract a couple of times. So I just want to be clear that the parking lot is actually owned by
Yep, the current owners of
current
340.
owners
Yep,
also own the parking lot.
correct.
Because that's always beneficial for any downtown venue.
I'm just knocking
Yeah,
off the
it's-
cobwebs. It's been a while since I've been here.
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You'll get used to me. So, just back to what I was saying. The parking lot is owned by the owners.
Yes, they've actually removed it, PRHA has removed their signs and everything. So, they
That's
used to
good
have
to know.
signs there, so.
That's
they own
good
it.
to know.
I think they own the building as well, right?
340?
Building and the parking.
Yep,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah,
Okay?
right. And so I just wanted that to be emphasized because it works in the favor of the owner of the building to have that parking lot. We're not talking about what is required. We're talking about what's most favored to be able to have that in the course of doing business. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions? No? All right. Thank you, Ms. Marvine. Appreciate it.
Ms. Avalon?
Next
Julie's been
one.
gone for a minute, so I'm so happy to say her name, so welcome back, Julie. P2316.
It was only 2 weeks.
Ever.
It's just, yeah. Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
I'm Julie Chop, Principal Planner with the city. This use permit application involves an approximately 6.5 acre parcel located at 4710 High Street West in the General Residential GR zoning district. The applicant proposes to construct a freestanding telecommunications tower on the northeast portion of the parcel. The property is located west of the Churchland Bridge and contains a 52,546 square foot religious institution built in 1962 with a large surface parking lot, a small storage building, and a fenced-in playground. The site's primary vehicular access is from High Street, with Kearney Farm Lane providing ancillary site access. The northern and eastern portions of the property appear to be in the X-shaded and AE8 boundaries of the FEMA special flood hazard areas, and a stormwater outfall is located in the northeast corner of the site. City Council did recently grant a use permit to operate a child day center within the existing building on this property. The area surrounding the subject property is largely residential. East of the site are detached single-family dwellings that are zoned general residential within the Pinehurst neighborhood. Located west across Kearney Farm Lane are additional single-family dwellings that are zoned GR within the Kearney Farms neighborhood. Across High Street West to the south are, again, single-family detached dwellings in the GR zoning district and the Green Acres neighborhood. To the north are single-family dwellings, zone GR, and a city pump station. The applicant indicates that the proposed telecommunications tower is needed to provide wireless services to residents and businesses surrounding the property within the Churchland area of Portsmouth. The applicant indicates that there are no towers within half a mile of the proposed tower on which to co-locate. The closest communication tower is 1.13 miles west of the proposed site, which, according to the applicant, is too close to an existing tower that's on Tire Neck Road. The applicant submitted preliminary plans for the proposed tower and the equipment compound that is shown on this slide. The 125-foot freestanding wireless communication tower with a 4-foot lightning rod and related communications equipment is proposed within an 800 square foot fenced area in the northeast corner of the parcel to the rear of the existing paved parking area. Access to the telecommunications tower facility is proposed from the existing adjacent parking area, and the tower is proposed to be located approximately 35 feet from the closest property line to the east, 95 feet from the property line to the south, 553.8 feet from High Street, and 370 feet from the northern property line. The proposed tower and equipment compound appears to be located outside of the boundaries of the FEMA regulated flood zone. The tower and equipment compound will be enclosed with a 7-foot black vinyl coated fence and vegetative screening. The project narrative indicates that the proposed telecommunication tower will be a galvanized steel monopole designed to accommodate at least 3 wireless providers. The tower will not be lit and will not include any advertising. The Telecommunications Act of 1996 prohibits local communities from banning antennas or towers for wireless cellular telecommunications and expressly preserves local zoning authority on applications for telecommunications towers, subject to certain limitations. The decisions denying telecommunications towers must be in writing. Decisions denying towers must be supported by substantial evidence. Localities may not adopt regulations that prohibit or have the effect of prohibiting wireless services. Localities may not adopt regulations that unreasonably discriminate against functionally equivalent providers, and localities must act on applications for approval of telecommunication towers within a reasonable amount of time. The Federal Telecommunications Act of 1996 also preempts and prohibits localities from regulating the placement, construction, and modification of towers on the basis of the environmental effects of radio frequency emissions if those facilities comply with the FCC's regulations concerning emissions. Staff recommends granting the applicant's request for a use permit with the recommended conditions. Although the Build One Comprehensive Plan is silent regarding development of telecommunication towers, staff has determined that the proposed use is, with the recommended conditions, is consistent with the intentions of the city's zoning goals of promoting the health, safety, and general welfare of the public. The proposed tower will provide a needed service to the public with minimal impact on adjacent lands. Staff did receive updated materials from the applicant on August 28th that were not included in the original Planning Commission packet, but were emailed to the commissioners. Because the updated plans were submitted after the packet was finalized, the dates in condition 1 and 2 of the use permit conditions will need to be revised with the appropriate date prior to the application being heard by City Council. And as well, you should have received 2 public comments that were received recently, and I will now stand by for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Chop. Yes, ma'am.
We received a letter that came in the mail just before this meeting, so I have this that I will give in there in opposition.
Thank you.
Ms. Chop, while we're waiting for that, if I may, it says this handout here, B Verizon Pinehurst Community Meeting. Do you know what this is?
Yes, I believe that was referenced in the staff report. That was one of the, oh wait, maybe it wasn't referenced in the staff report. They did have the applicant did hold a public meeting, and they, on August 28th, did provide a copy of the attendees at the August 14th meeting, and so that was also included with the new materials that you received.
Okay.
Thank you for.
Yeah, just for clarity, you said Verizon
Yeah.
had a meeting with the community of Pinehurst on the 14th of August, and these were the attendees.
Correct.
Do we know
28th vote. What did you say?
it was provided?
It was provided on the August 28th, but they held the meeting on the 14th of August.
Okay.
Any feedback from this, from
They
anyone?
They did. I did receive an email from them regarding
From the
that,
community meeting?
or from the applicant. So is that what you're asking?
Mm-hmm.
So.
You could, I guess what I'm getting
She
at is
said-
you can have a meeting, but was it a good meeting? Was it a bad meeting? Did
So,
they-
no, I understand. So I did ask for feedback on that meeting, and the applicant responded. And during the public hearing, I'm sure that she will be able to provide additional information. She said while there were a few opposed to the tower, there were many more who recognized that this tower will bring much better wireless coverage to the area.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I do have a question.
Commissioner Jenkins?
To your knowledge, was there ever a tower proposed at this site before?
Not to my knowledge, but I don't, okay. The zoning administrator is saying no.
There's never been a request for it.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Coleman?
Hi, I just have a question regarding the conditions that we have outlined in the zoning ordinance. Is there any other place on that property that the pole could be located and meet all of the criteria that we do have listed in the zoning ordinance?
Well, so the use-specific standards in the zoning ordinance are only those 4 that are within condition number 6. So I think that they could put it somewhere else on the property. I'm assuming that they were locating it in that particular area for a reason. So that would be a good question for the applicant to see if there's another location on the site that would also work.
Okay, thank you.
I have one other question. Do they do line of sight photos? I know in the past they've done like the balloons where you can see where the tower would sit.
Nope, they did not provide that.
Any additional questions? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Chop.
There were a couple letters of support too, though.
Oh, there were.
Yep, there were two emails that were received that were emailed this morning, but also you should have a paper copy provided to you.
Okay, I do.
That
Thank you.
I just want to note that
No.
too, since
Yes.
you had that one letter. of
Thank you.
support.
That's-
Okay.
Next case, Collins Wood. Ms.
Good
Valerie.
afternoon, planning commissioners.
Afternoon.
Afternoon.
My name is Valerie Melson. I'm a senior planner with the city. The application before you today is a request for a use permit to operate an entertainment establishment as part of a restaurant at 2860 Airline Boulevard. The subject property is located on the southeast portion of the 2884 Airline Boulevard parcel. The parcel is approximately 11.2 acres in size and contains multiple commercial buildings. The property is owned by Michael Zarpaz and is zoned General Mixed Use or GMU. The subject building is a one-story, 2,076 square foot commercial building that was originally constructed in 1971. A total of 6 off-street vehicle parking spaces adjoin the structure to the front and to the rear. An existing 4-lane drive-through is located along the north side of the structure. The surrounding area consists of commercial and residential uses. Commercial properties zoned General Mixed Use or GMU are located to the east, west, north of the subject property. Residential uses zoned urban residential or UR are located to the north of the parcel. Airline Boulevard and commercial properties zoned light industrial or IL are located to the south of the parcel. An approved use permit is required for entertainment establishments within the GMU zoning district. Restaurant uses are permitted by right. The applicant proposes to open El Chingon Tequilas and Mezcal as a restaurant that serves Mexican cuisine and cocktails and offers entertainment, including salsa dancing and salsa lessons. The restaurant will offer both indoor and outdoor seating. All entertainment is proposed to take place indoors. The applicant plans to remove one drive-through lane to create a 3-lane drive-through for carry-out guests and food delivery services. The applicant also plans to designate 2 parking spaces for curbside pickup service. The proposed operating hours of the restaurant will be 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. on weekdays and 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. on the weekends. Additional parking spaces from the surrounding shopping center parking lot will be utilized to provide the 16 off-street vehicle parking spaces that will be required for the restaurant use. This use will also require at least 2 bicycle parking spaces. The future land use map of the Build One Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan designates this property as appropriate for mixed-use corridors. Staff recommends the approval of the applicant's request with the recommended conditions. The proposal aligns with the goals of the Build One Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan. The proposed entertainment establishment will be appropriate in this area and will eliminate a vacant structure from a main roadway. To my knowledge, the Planning Department has not received any public comments on this application, and I will stand by for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Malzone. Commissioners, are there any questions for Ms. Malzone? None? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Adamar? Yes. I'm sorry, I checked out for a second.
No problem. Next case, I did it occasionally.
Too much time off.
UP 2318, Mr. Bill Landfair.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Planning Commissioners. I'm Bill Landfair, Principal Planner with the city. The final use permit application request before you today will allow operation of an entertainment establishment as part of the existing restaurant located at 4010 Victory Boulevard, Suite 4012C of the Victory Crossing Shopping Center, on approximately 9.48 acres in the General Mixed Use GMU zoning district. The surrounding area is commercial and mixed use in character, with retail sales and services uses predominating. To the north is a Lowe's Retail Sales and Garden Center, Zone General Mixed Use, GMU. To the east, beyond Victory Crossing Shopping Center and Missy Elliott Boulevard, is a 30.49 acre vacant parcel in the multifamily urban residential, or URM, zoning district. To the south is Interstate 264 East and its off-ramp for Victory Boulevard. And to the west, on a separate 7.42 acre parcel in the GMU zoning district, is an extension of Victory Crossing Shopping Center and a freestanding telecommunication tower. The proposed entertainment establishment or lounge will operate as part of the existing restaurant and will feature live performances and music provided by DJs and musicians. The hours of operation for the restaurant are Tuesday through Sunday, 11:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. The lounge will operate Thursday from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m., Friday and Saturday from 7 p.m. to 2 a.m., and Sunday from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. The lounge will be limited to patrons 30 years of age or older. The restaurant and lounge will be staffed with 15 full and part-time employees while open. During the hours of operation, 2 security officers, one at the entrance and one inside the establishment, will be on the premises. An additional security officer will be located at the entrance after 9 p.m. In addition, 6 security cameras are installed throughout the establishment, with cameras recording and monitoring all entrances. After 9 p.m., all staff will be at least 21 years of age. Proposed use will be located within an existing suite of the one-story Victory Crossing Shopping Center. Currently, there are no plans to modify the exterior of the building. There is adequate off-street parking within the existing shopping center parking lot. The property is designated on the future land use map of the comprehensive plan for commercial-type land uses. Staff recommends approval of the applicant's use permit request with conditions. With those conditions, the proposed use will be consistent with the recommendations of the city's Build One Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan and will be appropriate in this location. To our knowledge, no public comments have been received regarding this application. I'll now stand by for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Landfair. Commissioners, any questions? No? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Adamwa?
I'd like to note that City Manager Terry does have a team of people that periodically go around and check on entertainment establishments. You know, I think it's something that should be done. People ask questions about it, and so there are periodically a team does go around and check on these facilities. All right. So, fast for the update.
Yes.
We have 2 items under the update. The first deals with a 25 and 30-foot non-conforming lot. We met with Board of Zoning Appeals, and at the last meeting, we agreed to come back with some options as to how we would develop those lots. So that's that's the first item. The second item deals with a violation at the shopping center we were just looking at a few minutes ago. It's actually in the shopping center. It's the end unit. It's not all of the units there. It just addresses one end unit that has a automotive shop there that has been parking cars in the shopping center that's been operative. And actually, Mr. Hines was one of the first one that called us on it. Unfortunately, he's not here because, you know, he had a medical emergency. So we were just kind of giving him an update as to what was happening on that site. So first, Ms. Chop will give us an update on the lots, non-conforming lots. Variances.
Okay. Hello again. I'm Julie Chop. So at the last meeting, as Ms. Badumwa mentioned, we indicated that we would provide a report back to Planning Commission regarding the the joint meeting that was held the previous month with the Board of Zoning Appeals to discuss the issue of constructing single-family dwellings on narrow lots. And so a memo was included in the September Planning Commission packet that that discussed the background of the issue, as well as some brief descriptions of possible options. So what we would like to discuss during this work session is first go over those 4 options, and then determine if the Planning Commission can reach a consensus on those 4 options. And then if that consensus, or if that preferred option involves a code amendment, then we would during the portion of the public hearing, then we would have Planning Commission vote on approving a resolution that initiates staff to come up with a code amendment to address the narrow lot issue. So the first option would be a code amendment to change the current tool of a variance that is used to address the narrow lot issue, and change that to a special exception. So a special exception does not require it does not require the applicant to demonstrate a hardship. So it would still allow these cases to be looked at individually. It would just be, and the process would still be reviewed by the Board of Zoning Appeals. It would just move from a variance which requires a hardship to a special exception which does not require a hardship. So that's option 1. Option 2 would be to change the code to reduce the side yard setback for these narrow lots. And this would be a by right change to the zoning ordinance. And then option 3 would involve a code amendment that would allow a reduced side yard setback, but would also require that staff send out send out a notice to adjacent property owners to the subject property, letting them know that the request for a reduced setback has been made, and then if no objections are received within 30 days of mailing that notice, then the reduced side yard setback is approved. And then option 4 would be to leave as is, to keep the current process of allowing, or of having applicants request a variance when they would like to request a reduced side yard setback. So I don't know if there's any discussion regarding those 4 options, or how.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Chop. Any questions? Do y'all know the background, Taylor?
I do.
And Commissioner G? Okay. Okay. So I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
So you want us to select an option today?
Yes, that's what we're hoping for. Yes.
Okay.
Or you
okay.
can suggest another option, or blend the options. So it's open.
Well, based on, Commissioners, do y'all have anything to?
I have one question regarding the option number 3. You're saying that you would allow the reduction if no property owners object. If they object, then they would go through the number 4 and have to go through the variance.
Yes.
Okay, or the special.
So
Okay,
that's
it
where
wouldn't
you
do
could
special
combine.
exception,
I think
right.
that's where Ms. Badum was is referencing that these options could be combined if that were desired by the Planning Commission. But
And I think the last thing you said was, or the option could be just to leave it the way it is. Did I not hear that?
yes, that is an option.
Okay.
How do we define hardship at this point?
hardship here, let me get my zoning ordinance and read word for word what it says. Because I don't want to,
Most of these lots are non-conforming
yeah.
conforming lots anyway. The minimum lot size is normally 7,500 square feet. So when they come to the Board of Zoning Appeals, normally lots are like 4,000 square feet. And normally, if it's an irregular lot, you know, a lot that doesn't meet the zoning standards at all by size or anything like that. So in most cases, all of them that come before them have some kind of hardship. The fact that they're under 7,500 square feet, but you look for the specifics on it, but yeah.
I'm just trying to clarify hardship versus special exception. Where does that line draw?
But under the special exception, you don't need a hardship at all. Just come and make a request.
Okay.
Right.
You don't have to prove that it's a it's a non-conforming lot. Your lot is regularly shaped or something. You don't have to prove that. Just say this is a situation. I need a special exception.
Well, my question, I guess, to the planning director interim, what is your take on it? How would you say this should be approached? Personally, I'm for leave it like it is, but I want to hear.
I respect the fact that the chairman wants a change. The reason that the city chose this approach is that we do recognize there are non-conforming lots in the city.
Right.
And we didn't really want the city, the planning department, zoning to be the ones that made the final decision. We wanted the community or a board to make the decision, have a public hearing on it. And again, in the last 3 years, they had 20-some cases, which I didn't see that as a lot of cases, but, I can't speak for the Board of Zoning Appeals. So for me, I'm very comfortable with leaving it as it is, but I am also comfortable if you vote to change it.
Thank you for your input.
Thank you. Anything else? If we're going to select an option, what about option 1? That gives them, from what I understand, the special exception. They could decide, because if I remember correctly, the problem was some people were better able to plead their case, if you will, and it was more of who did what, presenting their case. And it should be straight across the board, is or is not. And also, if I remember correctly, there was quite a few that were platted in the city way back in the day.
True.
Do you remember when it went to 7 feet? Or when it was changed?
No. I did check, and in the previous 40.1 code, the same side yard setbacks were in place for UR and URM, which are the predominantly where these narrow lots are found. It was 7 in the old code, but I'm not sure about the previous one.
Does anybody know? Okay.
No. But the bottom line is that the city does recognize that before the original zoning ordinance came into was adopted, there were small lots. It was very normal to have a 25-foot lot, a 30-foot, very, very normal. You had a little shotgun houses, very normal. But over time, they decided that they started doing lot mergers and making the requirements having larger lots. But we didn't want those lots to be non-conforming. So we said, okay, you existed prior to the adoption of the zoning ordinance. Therefore, we allow you to come in to get a variance because you have a hardship. Your lot is non-conforming. It's undersized. It's shaped like a pie. Has water. Has a lake running through it. So.
But most of them was because of the size. Yeah.
Because they're 25 and 30-foot lots.
I personally am inclined to option 1. That way it gives the Board of Zoning Appeals an opportunity to have individual input. And I would imagine that there would be guidelines added to it as well.
Yes.
Okay.
And currently, do the neighbors, other than option 3, do the neighbors have any insight into this?
Yes, they're advertised.
This one is advertised,
Notice
same.
posted
Okay.
and all of that. They come to the meeting.
Okay.
So So this is something that you can think about.
Okay.
And maybe if you want to make a selection in the public hearing, or let us go back to the drawing board, or, it's up to you.
Commissioners, what would y'all like to do?
As I said, I made my voice known. I was saying leave it like it is. That's the way I see it. But whatever the majority decides, fine.
I kind of like option number one, because we know there's an issue with non-conforming lots. So we understand that there might be a special exception needed. And when they submit their plans against the lot and in the neighborhood, we should be able to determine then if it, looks really crazy or if it'll just kind of fit right in. So I do like option number one.
Okay. John, you gonna-
There are requirements to meeting a special exception.
We, as part of the code amendment, we could come up with standards. Right now, if, like, in the applicability section of the zoning ordinance for a special exception, like, you can apply for a special exception for these particular instances. So, if there were, like, we could just add this applicability to that section that said, rather than a variance, this would be the tool that these folks would use.
If you can meet these setbacks, if you can,
Yeah,
do
like,
this, okay.
yeah, there would be some constraints. It wouldn't just be an open thing.
right, okay.
And I think, I just wanted to mention one more thing that to consider would be that the state code, I believe, does reference that if there is a repeated variance request, that a code amendment is more appropriate to find another situation to address, to find another solution to address rather than a variance, because a variance is considered, for
One person.
yeah.
One or two.
Thank you. My brain's on vacation mode. I'm having a hard time, guys.
I think it's contagious today.
Yeah.
Anyone?
Yeah, I agree with the case one.
Option one?
Yeah.
Okay. Option
May I
one.
ask something? The zoning administrator, is doing the reports and the public hearings for the special exceptions, would they amount to the same amount as for doing a board of zoning appeal? So you're really not?
Yeah, nothing really changes with that regard, no.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are you interested in any of those options, or?
I don't know that we've essentially done anything. They're still going to come before the zoning board. So we've, in effect, not alleviated anything.
Do we have access to those 20 cases to see where the locations are and
Yeah,
how,
they're
like,
mainly in Brighton and Prentice
Prentice
Park,
Park.
those older neighborhoods, urban, what's the other one? And
Ebony Heights.
Ebony Heights, yeah. So we can
Get some
provide
additional
that to you,
material?
but,
Okay.
the bottom line is that they were non-conforming lots. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to address Ms. Coleman's concern.
Okay.
I think what the shift from a variance to a special exception would do, if you think back to the joint meeting that was held when BZA was here, and there was discussion between the BZA members where some were viewing variance as a very high standard, a quasi-judicial standard with strict guidelines, and then others were saying, well, it shouldn't be that strict. By changing it to a special exception, essentially we're making a legislative determination, much like a use permit that you all act upon. So I think that, and I'm looking at the chairman here, but he's nodding his head, I think that would allow the board to coalesce on the more legislative approach and probably resolve the issue.
Because in a sense, every person coming to you with a variance for hardship would nominally be denied. Should be.
If you view it as too many
Right,
properties, it's
right. Okay,
not
thank you.
unique.
Thanks.
Okay. Ms. Adamwa?
Okay, so we go on to the next topic?
No?
No, are y'all?
I'm voting option one.
Okay, we have one for option one.
I would do option one.
Option one.
All right, then. Consensus is option one at this
Did
point.
Ms.
We don't know what's going to
Jiggins- Ms.
happen.
Jiggins, You said,
Oh,
I was, leave it as it is, that was mine.
oh, okay.
okay. So you're 4-1.
So
Okay.
4.
4-1.
Okay.
So I do have a question. So they voted to go with option one? I mean, they didn't vote, they
voted.
agreed that they're going with option one, or because I heard you say that it's going to
One
be,
said yes, they agreed. One said keep it the same.
okay.
So that's it for this meeting.
So we're not doing, I thought I
So
heard her,
during the
public hearing,
public
she-
hearing.
that's what I'm just
Yeah.
trying to be clear.
Okay.
No, you're right, you're right.
Are we doing a voting in the public hearing to initiate a resolution
Yes.
to be heard? Okay, that's what I wanted to be clear on. Thank you.
I understood that question. Are you ready for the next one?
Okay, Ms. Adamar.
All right, Mrs. Zoning Administrator, could you give us an update on what's going on in this violation?
Good afternoon, I'm Mr. Millhouse with the zoning office. I'm the zoning administrator for the city of Portsmouth. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what you're looking at right here on the screen. The subject property is 2884 Airline Boulevard, Suite B. I want that to be understood. We're just talking about this specific space here, which is the same thing. Sometime in late July, a citizen raised concern about inoperable vehicles being located at the Victory West Shopping Center parking area. The vehicles were being repaired and sold by Import Connection Incorporated, but they were located outside of the business area and the shopping center parking lot. The zoning office conducted an investigation monitoring the property in question, and a case was opened on 8/1/23 to corroborate the matter. Specified, this is the operating area here, where this business should be operating. And it looked like it bleeded outside, possibly over here. Zoning office sent a notice of violation to the property owner detailing the violation. The standard notification provides that codes for which the violation are, the required action by the respondent, and the time frame to comply and contact the zoning office. The zoning office spoke briefly with the owners of Import Connection in person and on the phone before and after they received the notice of violation. In both instances, the Import Connection owners requested additional time to resolve the issue and requested 6 months of a time frame to quote-unquote get things done. The shopping center, general information about the shopping center, as the shopping center is approximately 11 separate suites. It's currently owned by Victory West Thrill Park LLC, which is based out of Virginia Beach, Virginia. The property itself is Zone GMU, general mixed use, and has a wide variety of professional offices and institutions with a broad range of light, moderate, and intensity commercial uses. And that's what the district is made up of. The subject property is located within the neighborhood shopping center or strip plaza. Surrounding properties are primarily commercial uses. The site does base or have family homes directly to the rear of the property, which is zone UR. The use itself has been operating since 2007. And according to section 40.2216, the city Portsmouth zoning ordinance, the use is vehicle sales and vehicle repair servicing minor is a permitted use, and they are operating as permitted by right. The Commissioner of Revenue for the city has confirmed that the business is in good standing and does have all licenses as well. Our issuance was as follows: upon becoming aware of any violation the ordinance, the zoning administrator would make issue of written notice to such violations, contacting persons directly and all those permitting the uses. Our next step at that point, and this is what closes out, based on the above findings, staff will approve an additional 30 days for the review of compliance. The applicant will be required to show significant progress and act upon any directives from the zoning office. Failure to meet the satisfaction of the extension, which we are going to grant them, will result in the city moving forward with enforcement action. So at this time, they have been sent a notice of violation to correct the issue in concern. They had a standard time of 30 days to get the issue resolved. They have since requested longer than that. They wanted 6 months. The zoning officer will give them 30 days to see and monitor the property accordingly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Okay. Ms. Adama, is there anything further?
No, I just, on this case here, is there a roadway that separates the property from the
City Park.
So there's an alleyway behind the building, but that's access part of the property, so that space you see directly behind the building. Are you questioning space here?
Yeah.
The alleyway, so that's just an alleyway behind the building, or access route behind the building.
Okay. So the person mentioned that there was a lot of trees and things like that, and the fence and all of that. So is that true?
That's, I mean, are there trees
The
and
screening, is it?
Yeah, so there's the screening. So
Is there issues
yes,
with
so we have
screening and
we have
all
also
that?
addressed a complaint with regard to the fence. The fence was in poor repair and had some slats that needed to be replaced. Upon speaking with the applicants, they said that there's a 3-week backlog for the materials, but they have since requested those materials.
Okay, so the violation concerns their. Because there's a screening in the alley and all
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
They can listen.
So yeah, the whole idea is to make sure is to alleviate any possibility, or to, as much as possible, to alleviate exposure from the commercial use to the residential properties, because they are homes and they don't want to see all that going on. So
That's true.
yes, ma'am. So we monitor that well.
All right, thank you much.
Maybe you had a question?
No. Okay, thank you. Are there any additional questions for Ms. Adama? Okay. All right, Commissioners, this concludes our September 5th, 2023 work session. We will convene for our regular Planning Commission meeting at 1:30 today. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you all to this very important meeting today, Tuesday, September 5th, 2023, in the City of Portsmouth City Council chambers. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Commissioners, we will now have roll call. Please indicate your presence electronically. Okay, just today, if you guys, because we have someone new on the machine, so I need y'all to just go a little slower today, because she doesn't know the commissioners, okay? All right. 6 members of the Planning Commission are present.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome new Commissioner Shonda Taylor and returning Commissioner Ocasio G. Commissioners, before you are the minutes of the August 1, 2023 public hearing. If there aren't any changes, we are in need of a motion. And a second.
Need a motion?
Commissioner G,
I move for acceptance of the August 2023 minutes.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Curry. Madam Secretary.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the August the 1st, 2023 public hearing, and we will be voting electronically. Still have some that have not voted. Thank you. The minutes are approved by a vote of 6-0. Announcements of future meetings and conferences. Our next scheduled work session is Tuesday, October the 3rd at 12:30 p.m. City Council Conference Room, followed by public hearing at 1:30 p.m. City Council Chamber. Items reviewed today will be presented to City Council for action at their October the 10th, 2023 public hearing or as otherwise noted. Planning Commission rules limit a speaker up to 5 minutes to speak. We also ask that everyone please silence your cell phones if you have not already done so at this time. The following item is deferred from the July the 18th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting. UP-23-12 Downtown. Tawana Freighter with Gentle Touch Learning Center, LLC, requests a use permit to operate a child daycare center on approximately 1.75 acres located at 670 Lincoln Street in the Downtown Special District D1 SD zoning subdistrict. The future land use map of the Build One Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan designates this property for mixed-use employment. The property is owned by the Runnymede Corporation, George Louiso, and is further described as Tax Map 33, Parcel 79. The staff coordinator is Amy Mervine. And will the applicant or representative for this application please come forward and present your application at this time?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, my time starts now. Good afternoon. Sorry about that. Okay, my name is Tawana Freighter, the director and owner of Gen Touch Learning Center. I have been teaching in Portsmouth Public Schools for the past 14 years.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Could you speak into the microphone so that
Sure.
and slow
Can you hear
down
me
just a tiny bit?
I was just trying to get through my 5 minutes.
That's okay. You're fine. We're not going to run you out. You're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. We are currently proposing to place a childcare center at 670 Lincoln Street, where the Hampton Road Health Center was once operating. After my meeting with the city zoning department, I was informed that the site is located in a D1 SD sub-district. This made me aware that there are some health and safety issues that I will need to put in place before considering putting a child care facility in that location. I myself have lived in Prentice neighborhood for the first 12 years of living in Portsmouth and understand how hard it is to find child care center close to home. Currently, there aren't any licensed child care center located in the South Side neighborhood of Portsmouth. Gen Touch Learning Center is proposing to have a learning center that operates from Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. until 6 p.m. The center will admit children from the ages of 12 weeks up to 12 years old. We propose having a total of 120 children with a team of 16 to 20 teachers rotating shifts between the hours of 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Gen Touch Learning Center will be using a 7,875 square foot of the building space and 50 by 50 square feet for outside play. Currently, the center is located on Turnpike Road, is at part of the Virginia Quality Birth Through 5 program, which implements by Eastern Virginia Medical School, and we are also a part of the cohorts of child care centers that are implementing the curriculum Streaming 3 that is offered by the Center for Advanced Studies of Teaching and Learning at the University of Virginia as a curriculum option offered through the partnership with the Virginia Department of Education. As an early childhood care education provider, we would like the opportunity to implement the same program in the South Side neighborhood. Studies have shown that children who receive an approved preschool curriculum education are more likely to form better habits of going to school regularly and are ready for the kindergarten curriculum. Currently, our school system struggles with the chronic absentee. Appendix A1 and B will show that information. And having a program that is close to home that gives parents the convenience of dropping off their child at our center before taking the bus to go to work would be helpful. Our students who are in the public school system receive assistance with homework daily along with tutoring. We also have a summer camp readiness program for our school-age students to prepare them for the next grade level. The property is within the ABEX Superfund site. Lead-contaminated soil was found on this property from the nearby brass and bronze foundry that operated from 1928 to 1978. Following extensive cleanup efforts, remediation was declared complete by the EPA in 2009. After reading the safe guidelines of the ABEX EPA 2022 report on page 14, that's also in my other appendix, we have decided that we would use the paved driveway where the health clinic once parked the mobile buses for playground area or in front of or building in the parking area. Okay, living in Portsmouth for almost 20 years, I am aware of the flooding that takes place on Effingham Street. The building is located at the corner of Lincoln Street and 7th Street. Therefore, when Effingham Street is flooded, the parents are able to take the Court Street or the Port Center Parkway to Premier Place to enter the parking lot on 7th Street to pick up their children. When we call for an emergency evacuation, we also have an emergency evacuation on file for the fire department guidelines, with the fire department guidelines. Gentle Touch Learning Center will follow the guidelines set by the city for operating a child care center in the floor plan of the building. We are proposing to open up 8 walls and remove 2 countertops spaces. Also to turn a break area that already has a sink and countertop into a functioning kitchen. We are in contact with the fire department and environmental health services. Today we have Mr. Keith Miller from the TTC Corporation Environmental Health with the result from our test that was done in July of 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frater. Commissioners, do you have any questions of the applicant? Commissioner Jiggets?
Thank you. Yes, I do have a question. I have 2 questions. My first question, have you had any communication with the state licensing division for childcare? Have you spoken with them about the site that you're interested in?
Yes, I did send the information with the EPA results to her, but I was trying to see if she would be able to come, but again, it's not on her qualification to say whether or not she has to wait for the health department or the city reading the results from the EPA. But that is not in her qualification to come up to say something.
Okay, and the other, it's not a question, it's just some information I was made aware of, that when the ABEX property cleanup was done, the particular building that you're interested in was not included, and there was no cleanup inside of the building. Were you aware of that?
Because I think it was in the soil. So
well, lead can get inside a building too. You know, there's lead paint, there are lead particles. So I didn't know if you were aware of that information or not.
Okay. No, I did not know that they, because I thought it was just the soil they treated, not the actual building itself.
Well, no, that is correct.
Right.
There was nothing done in the building.
Right.
But buildings carry lead particles
right. And we
also.
normally, yes, and we normally, as a child care center, we do have someone come in and do a lead test and also asbestos test.
But you have not had that done?
Because we have to wait for approval for you guys before we go ahead and get all of those stuff done.
Thank you. Commissioners,
Thank you.
Okay.
any additional questions? None? Commissioner Curry, did you have a question? All right. Madam Secretary?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frater.
Would you guys like to speak to the report, about the report that we did submit in July?
I do not know that unless the commissioners are interested.
I would like to hear from that report, if it's okay.
How many minutes?
Morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Mr. Miller? Is that
I'm Keith
correct?
Miller.
Okay.
I'm
You can
the
have
owner-
5 minutes, sir.
I'm the owner of TTC Corporation. I'm an environmental consultant, and I'm very familiar with the ABEX lead factory, the lead plant down there. In fact, I did quite a bit of work on and around those properties during the Superfund cleanup activity. And the site was contaminated. This was an adjacent parcel. Excuse me. And during the EPA process of cleaning up property, they did do some excavation on this site. The target limits that the EPA were using was 400 parts per million lead or less to clear the site, which they did. They did get it down to that level. There was some subsequent testing done on this site, I think early this year by MSA Corporation, where they went in and did borings and took soil samples and tested them. And with the exception of one location, which was not on this part of the property, it was closer to the, I believe the building next door was occupied by the police department, has some sort of a training facility in there. Part of their land, they got one hit that was above 400 parts per million, but it was down at about 4 feet below the surface level. All the other samples that were taken on the site came in at well below 400. Most of them were in the single and double digit level. So there is lead on the property that we're aware of in the soil, and the fact that they're going to put the play area on the asphalt should be relatively safe. The EPA and HUD guideline limits for residential use or child care facilities is 400 parts per million. Ms. Jiggets, I believe you are correct. I believe as a part of the process with getting a permit approved through the Virginia Department of Health and the other state agencies that regulate these facilities, they probably will require wipe samples to be done inside the building to confirm the presence of any lead dust that's in there. I know that's been my experience in the past on these types of facilities. Any other questions I can answer for you about this? I'd be happy to.
Commissioner Jiggets, did you have another question?
No, I appreciate that. I was just wondering if we could hear from EPA.
We're getting there.
EPA is here. Thank you.
Thank you,
sir.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 2 guests with us today from the Environmental Protection Agency. We have a toxicologist, and if these ladies would like to come up, we'll give you 5 minutes. If you would like to share what you did in the work session or offer any input on the site. Okay.
You need to ask them.
Okay, she wants to offer clarification.
Can they-
If you
no,
can come up to the lectern, thank you. And give us your name, please.
Hi, my name is Linda Watson. I work for United States Environmental Protection Agency. I'm the toxicologist risk assessor assigned to the ABEX site. I've been working on this site now for 25 years. So, the first thing that was said was that the level for lead in residential property is 400. And that level has been in existence since 1984. However, just recently, within the last 2 to 4 years, that level has been recommended to be reduced. Let me just back up a little bit. That 400 ppm of soil that was referenced by the gentleman was associated with a blood lead level of 10 micrograms per deciliter, which was considered the safe level. Maybe about 5 years ago, CDC recommended to change that from 400 to 200 level of ppm in soil. EPA is now attempting, as we speak, to determine what sites it needs to go back to do additional remediation, if necessary, to bring that level from 400 to 200. But as written in our record of decision, the gentleman is right, it's 400. But now, we don't use old, we go with new. That's the science is constantly evolving. We know now that the safeguard of 200 is associated with a blood lead level of 5 micrograms per deciliter. Ultimately, I don't know when EPA will get there, we know there is no safe level for children, ideally. But with laws and politics, it's a struggle to try to get that level, that standard to 0. So we just keep bringing it down, slowly but surely. EPA is working now at a blood lead level, again, of 5 micrograms per deciliter, which is associated with a soil concentration of 200 parts per million. And CDC has even dropped that now to 3.5 micrograms per deciliter in the blood, which is associated now with a level of 100, 150 in the soil. Again, EPA has not taken that 3.5 recommendation. So that's the first thing I wanted to clear up. We're now working with a soil concentration of 200 ppm, or milligrams per kilogram. The second thing that everyone keeps focusing on is the outdoor exposure, talking about the soil and the excavation, and that is an important factor. But what's more relevant and important is that lead has a tendency of existing or being transported into the atmosphere through lead dust particles. We know from our investigation, when we did the soil wipe sampling in the interior of the existing property at the time, lead was detected. It was detected at such levels that the community had a fit and said, no way we want to stay in these houses. And they fought EPA, and eventually we demolished those homes. So the concept is, if it was found in the interior of the homes near the ABEX foundry, it could very well be within the interior, existing as lead dust particles. And so dust wipe sampling would be recommended to determine what those concentrations are in the interior of the building. So I just wanted to offer those 2 clarifications. If you have any more questions, let me know.
Ms. Watson, commissioners, do you have any additional questions? No? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Watson, we appreciate it.
Okay.
Madam Secretary?
Okay, the other lady's not going to speak. Go ahead. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP-23-12. If there's anyone here who did not get an opportunity to register and would like to address this application, you may come forward, state your name and your address for the record, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none, Madam Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Commissioners, is there any more discussion? If not, we are in need of a motion and a second. I'd like to make a motion to deny the application. Anybody?
I second.
Madam Secretary, we have a motion and a second.
We have a motion and a second to deny UP-23-12, and you will be voting electronically.
So we're voting.
You're voting to deny it. So if you hit, okay.
Go ahead and finish the instruction.
A yes vote is that you agree with the denial, okay? And a no vote is you disagree with the denial. Okay, we're good. This item is denied by a vote of 521. Okay. Thank you. Our next item, UP-23-10 Downtown, Dr. Angela D. Reddix requests a use permit to operate an event space banquet hall on the approximately 0.26 acre parcel located at 340 High Street in downtown D1 T5 zoning subdistrict and the Downtown Design District overlay. The future land use map of the Build One Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan designates this property for mixed-use downtown-type land uses. The property is owned by OMD Enterprise, LLC, Angela D. Riddick, manager, and is further described as Tax Map 6, Parcel 91. The staff coordinator is Amy Mervine, and will the applicant or representative for this application please come forward and present your application at this time.
Good afternoon, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Robert Barclay, and my business address is 200 High Street, Suite 500 in Portsmouth, Virginia. And I'm here this afternoon on behalf of the applicant, Dr. Reddix. Dr. Reddix is the founder of a healthcare and technology company, and one of the focuses of her business is empowering women entrepreneurs. And that's led her to her vision for this property, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. It is the former TCC Arts Center. It was used for that for a number of years, and prior to that, it was the famous department store. The vision that Dr. Reddix has led her and her husband to purchase this building and to promote workspaces to help entrepreneurs, specifically women entrepreneurs, get their businesses started and going. One of the uses that she would like to put the property to is a venue for weddings and corporate retreats and corporate training type events. And what she would like to do is to use the third floor of the building for that purpose, together with a rooftop garden, which would also be available for use. In order to do that, a use permit is required for two reasons. One is to create an event space that would include a banquet hall and also an entertainment establishment. In working towards this application, we met with the Old Town Civic League on August 17th and made a presentation there. And we have received and reviewed the staff's report and its proposed conditions. The applicant is in agreement with all of the proposed conditions, and we'll be happy to see them to fruition. In our meeting with the Civic League and in going over the staff report, it appears the most significant issue is parking. And Dr. Reddix has foreseen that and plans to develop a specific and detailed plan to address that. The staff has addressed that through a condition that business cannot be initiated until there's been an approval of a written parking plan. That parking plan will include several components, one of which is Dr. Reddix and her husband also own the parking lot that's located at the corners of Queen and Court Street. They purchased that at the same time they purchased the building. And they have made arrangements with a valet service that will provide valet parking from the facility over to that parking lot. In the event that overflow parking is needed, if this application is approved, she will then work with the city's parking authority to secure dedicated parking in nearby city garages for any overflow that might not be accommodated in the Queen and Court Street parking lot. What I'd like to do now is I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Reddix and she's going to provide some details about her vision for the property, and sort of fill you in on what else is going to be going on there. Thank you very much, and I'll be available for questions afterwards.
Thank you, Mr. Barkley.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Dr. Angela Reddix, and my husband and I purchased the lot with the idea of expanding the work that we've done throughout 48 states, empowering girls and women in the entrepreneurship space. We've received awards for the work that we've done. I was honored as Ebony Power 100 2021, recipient of the Innovative Leader Award. And so the vision for this space is to have a safe space for women to be able to build and expand their businesses. We have the first 2 floors already leased out to 6 businesses that will be starting there. And the 3rd floor is to really create a level of elegance for events, specifically weddings and corporate events, government events. We, in our for-profit, are Artix, which is a healthcare management and technology firm, federal government contracting. One of the things that we do for the federal government is event planning. So we conduct large business or large events for the health industry throughout the nation. So we understand what it means to have a space where there's the ambiance necessary to reach the necessary goals. We understand the requirements that were identified by the staff, and mainly in the parking, specifically in that area. So we definitely plan to submit a plan that we've thought through. The valet service, I think it's important to really highlight that. That comes included in the rental space, so it is not an additional cost that someone would say, let me park on the street instead of using the valet service. We've tried to think of every security precaution. I think it's important to note that being the owner of that building, it's important to me that the property value maintains or increases, therefore security and making sure parking and making sure the experience is optimal is beneficial as an owner-operated facility. Additionally, I have a responsibility to those who are leasing or tenants to us. So there is more to this building than the 3rd floor, but the context of this discussion is the 3rd floor. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Reddix. Commissioners, are there any questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP-23-10. I have no registered speakers. If there's anyone here who did not get an opportunity to register and would like to address this application, you may come forward, state your name and your address for the record, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none, Madam Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Commissioners, is there any more discussion? If not, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Madam Chair, I make a move to approve UP-23-10 with any conditions.
Thank you.
Commissioner G, I second.
Thank you, Commissioner G. Madam Secretary, we have a motion and a second.
And we will be voting electronically.
It's
Hold
not
on, y'all.
working.
Y'all got to let her open it first. Slow down.
We are.
Slow down.
Lord have mercy.
Okay. This item is approved by a vote of 6-0. We have conditions. Okay. Our next item, you ready? UP-23-16 Carney Farm. Celico Partnership, on behalf of Verizon Wireless, requests a use permit to construct and operate a 125-foot monopole telecommunications tower with a 4-foot lighting rod, together with related communications equipment, on an 800-square-foot fenced portion of the 6.5-acre parcel at 4710 High Street West in the General Residential GR zoning district. The future land use map of the Build One Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan designates this property for institutional public use. The property is owned by Richard Baker et al. Trustees and is identified as tax map 759 parcel 1. The staff coordinator is Julie Chop. Will the applicant or the representative for this application please come forward and present your application at this time?
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Lisa Murphy. I'm a local zoning attorney with an office at 440 Monticello Avenue in the city of Norfolk. I'm here today on behalf of the applicant, Selco Partnership, which does business as Verizon Wireless. I have with me today Carrie Fazzarelli, who is also available to answer questions, and Jason Nye, the representative of the DC Church, the owner of the property, is also available if you have property-specific questions as well. As most of you all know, in the late 90s and early 2000s, consumers used wireless phones predominantly for business travel. They were used by folks while they were driving on the roadways. At that time, the networks were largely built out with antenna sites on the major roadways and the secondary roadways. And at that time, as I mentioned, phones were more of a nicety than a necessity, and we're talking about 25 years ago. A lot's changed in the last 25 years. Today, wireless devices are no longer just phones, they're smart devices. It's a personal computer, video camera, calculator, way to surf the internet, stream videos, and provide order goods and services, connect virtually with your doctors, your customers. As most people know, during the pandemic, we became more and more reliant on those wireless devices and our wireless phones. To put the growth of wireless into perspective, in December 2007, which wasn't too long ago, just under 16% of families were wireless only at home. Last year, by last summer, it was just under 71% of adult-only households were wireless, and 82% of households with children were wireless only at home, meaning they had gotten rid of their landlines and they were relying just on their cell phone. That number is 87% for millennials, many of whom have never had a regular phone, wouldn't know what to do with it if they saw it. As you can imagine, network capacity is now far outstripped by that ever-growing demand, and more folks abandoning their landlines. So what does that mean? That means we have to get closer and closer to the neighborhoods and the homes and the businesses that we're trying to serve. As was mentioned by Julie at the informal session, Verizon Wireless has a need for an antenna site to provide wireless services to residents and business in this portion of Churchland and the traveling public along this portion of High Street. I think you should have it in your application packet, but this tower connects with a tower to the north that's just under 1.5 miles away. It's a city emergency communications tower that is located on West Norfolk Road. It connects with the antenna site to the northeast that's, again, right around 1.5 miles away near the Western Freeway on Lombardy Avenue. And then to the northwest, there's a site about 1.5 miles away at Tire Neck Road near the High Street intersection. Also, as Julie mentioned, we searched the area within a half mile and were not able to find any existing structures. Localities prefer for carriers to use existing structures to hang their antennas, and the wireless providers prefer to use existing structures. It's faster, it's cheaper, they don't have to go through a public hearing process, they just go through an administrative process, they hang their antennas. So if there was an available site to hang antennas, then we wouldn't be here today, which is the application before you is at the DC Church. Again, it's 6.5 acres, zoned GR. And when the carriers do determine that they have to build a structure to hang their antennas, they look for larger properties and they look for dense stands of trees or natural buffering that's in existence. I believe it was Mr. G asked about photo simulations. I handed Julie some photo simulations that were sent right after she got back from vacation, so there's a little miscommunication on my part. We did bring these to the community meeting that we had. So on August the 14th, we held a community meeting with the Churchland Civic League, and we invited directly the 24 closest properties all around the existing property. So that would be folks that would have gotten the notice of this meeting and other folks. We wanted to make sure we got the message out, explained what was going on. As Julie indicated, there were about 20 people at the meeting. The majority were in support. They wanted better wireless service. They understood that this was going to help them. There were a few folks that were in opposition. They had some concerns about the project. I tried to allay their concerns. I think the lady you got the letter from today was not one of the folks that was at our meeting, but you did get 2 emails in support, and both of those gentlemen were at the meeting that we held on the 14th. So we tried to get out and get to the community and get the word out, because so often what we find is people don't understand or they don't know what's coming, and it's best to get out ahead of it and to get the word out to the community. So the other question that came up at the work session was the location on the site. This location was actually chosen because there's a nice dense stand of mature pine trees, actually very tall pine trees. You're going to hear from the folks that live actually behind the site, and I think they're in support of this. So we tried to use that stand of mature trees as a nice buffer. The site itself is only going to be 800 feet, and you'll see it's in that northeast corner of the property. The equipment on the ground will be surrounded with a 7-foot chains that'll have that black, vinyl-coated fence that'll have that black vinyl coating on it. It's a relatively small equipment compound. It's also a relatively short tower. It's only 125 feet. There's a 4-foot lightning rod on top, and it'll be built for a total of 3 users. So Verizon can use it, but AT&T or any other carriers that might have issues in the area can use that site as well. As Julie mentioned, as the staff report mentioned, this does comply with the requirements of the zoning ordinance. And although it's not directly addressed in your comprehensive plan, it does help to foster public health, safety, and welfare. Certainly, the number of users both using their phones at home, but also using their phones for safety and security reasons, as you see in those emails that you got from some of the neighbors. It's an unmanned facility, so it's another utility. It doesn't have any impact. There won't be traffic generated by the site. There won't be noise, smoke, fumes, glare, any of that. There will be a backup generator at the site, and that is for power outages. So if the power's out for a certain amount of time, you need to have a power supply at the facility, and all of the newer sites have backup generators, but it's not going to be any more than a normal residential generator that you would have come on in a hurricane or in a nor'easter. As the staff report indicates, as I said, we comply with the requirements of the zoning ordinance. Staff is recommending approval. We had some tweaks to the conditions that Julie mentioned, just the dates of the site plan, which has been updated. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, and we would respectfully request that you recommend approval of this application to the City Council.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Commissioners, do you have any questions of the applicant? Commissioner Curry?
Yes, I just wanted to ask about the output of radiation from the tower.
Sure. So the wireless facilities are regulated by the federal government. So in addition to having to go through a local zoning process, we have to comply with all of the federal requirements. The federal government actually sets the emissions for wireless facilities. And as a result of the fact that they're set by the federal government, they've taken that out of the purview of the local government. But I can tell you that we've submitted a NEAR report, which is the report that shows that it's a small fraction of a percentage of what the maximum exposure level would be. So at ground level, you're more impacted by the lights in your room, the Wi-Fi in your home. They're not going to be impacted by the emissions coming off of the tower at 125 feet.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Jiggets, did you have a question?
Yes. currently, I think you made mention of it, where is the closest Verizon tower?
So the closest, yeah, there are three of them about 1.5 miles away, one to the north, one to the northeast, one to the northwest. There is an existing tower that's just over a mile, so 1.3 miles away towards the Chesapeake line off of Tire Neck Road. That is an existing tower that Verizon is not on, but that one's too close to an existing antenna site for it to be something that Verizon could use. So if it was something that Verizon could have used, they would have located antennas on it. So your ordinance speaks to a 1/2 mile around, so there's nothing within the 1/2 mile that Verizon could co-locate on. The closest is a mile, just over a mile away, but it's too close to an existing antenna site that Verizon has.
For clarification, so where is the closest tower that Verizon
That
does
Verizon
taps
is on?
Yes.
It is 1.47 miles. It's a city-owned emergency communications tower off of the West Norfolk Road. That's the closest one that Verizon's on. And it's not, as you saw from the letters from the neighbors, and as you may hear, it's not providing the coverage that they need inside their homes.
What do you mean by it's not providing the coverage that they need?
So they're not able to use their wireless homes or phones for their home businesses, for internet, for that type of thing.
Inside their home?
Inside, yeah.
They're not able to use their
Mhm.
Verizon cell phone, is what you're telling me?
Yeah, so if you look at just one of the letters that came from the neighbor, cell signal is terrible and could be a possible safety concern with the amount of older residents in our neighborhood, or the emergency department services are required. So in this case, the emails that you've received really reinforce the fact that they're having problems with their cell service.
And you can attest to the fact that with this cell tower, that will alleviate those type of issues that these homeowners are having?
For the folks that have Verizon in that area, yes. And it will be built for the 2 other users. So this particular structure is being built by Verizon. Verizon will be at the top. There'll be other spots for antennas. What I can tell you is this is the site that Verizon's engineers have identified as the site that's going to help fix that problem that the neighbors are having in this direct area. So the folks that are closest to the tower are the folks that are going to benefit from the enhanced services. Again, if they have T-Mobile, I'm not sure what T-Mobile's network looks like, but they could co-locate. Yeah, I don't want to get into marketing or any of that, but.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Curry, did you have a question?
I want to say, I live right by that tower you were discussing, and I have Verizon in my home, and it is very difficult at times with Verizon being right literally by my home. I can walk to the tower from my house, being difficult at that time. So I understand. I'm one of those people who have difficulty with using stuff in my home because of the tower right by my home.
Commissioner Taylor?
And this is only,
But you got to flip the button up. There you
okay,
go.
thank you. And this is only going to impact wireless customers, correct?
Correct, it's only for wireless. Yeah,
Okay.
if you're talking about Verizon landline, it's a totally separate company, and this wouldn't be impacted.
Yeah, the infrastructure is different, but this would only help people who have internet services or cell services through Verizon Wireless.
Right.
Okay.
Commissioners, any additional questions? No. Ms. Murphy, I have a question. I'd just confirm, if you would, for me. How is the base secured, given that property was recently approved for a daycare, and we all know how mischievous children can be? I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
So if you look at the plans, that 7-foot chain link fence that'll have the vinyl coating actually goes around the tower compound itself. And so it'll be, unless they climb a 7-foot tall.
Is there a chain or
link
lock
fence.
on it?
Yeah, it's completely locked and secured.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure. Thank you so much.
And that was a question that Julie brought to us, and the church is comfortable. Obviously, they just went through the process for the child care facility, but they're comfortable that this is secure enough for their purposes.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Commissioners, is there any more discussion? If not, we are in need of a motion and a second. I'm sorry, Madam Secretary, we got.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Jumped ahead.
It's okay.
Must be that vacation.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP-23-16. I have one registered speaker, Mark Munson. May come forward, state your name and your address for the record, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Madam Commissioner, Secretary, Commissioners, fellow citizens, my name is Mark Munson. My wife and I reside at 3309 Kearney Farm Lane. If you look at the map, we are the property that has this tower immediately behind us, and we are fully supportive of bringing this needed service to this underserved cell area in our community. I every day walk Pinehurst, Sterling Point, Green Acres, which are the neighborhoods that are affected here. You get 1 bar, you get 2 bars if you're lucky, and it just does not work. I mean, I have cell phone calls in my home that I lose on a routine basis. I still maintain my landline because I cannot have consistent cell service. We believe this is a service that our neighborhood needs. We believe this is a good place to have it. We understand the minimal health risks concerned, and from an aesthetic standpoint, as long as they maintain a nice arboreal separation between us and them, that's fine. Just as a footnote, all those trees are currently going to die if they don't get all the invasive weeds off of those trees that are right there right now. So when they finish doing the construction, they may have to plant some more trees because those trees are all getting killed right now by wisteria and grapevines. So does anybody have any questions for me?
No, sir. Thank you, Mr. Munson. We appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP-23-16. If there is someone here who did not get an opportunity to register and would like to address this application, you may come forward, state your name and your address for the record, and you will have 5 minutes to speak.
Good afternoon, Council. Thank you for your time this afternoon. My name is Jason Nye. My address is 3107 Ferguson Drive, and I represent the church that this will be going on. I just wanted to state for the record, we're in favor of this as well, obviously, but just speaking as somebody who lives in the community, I live just 30 seconds down the street on High Street and Cedar, and I had Verizon, and every time I drove past the church, this proposed location, or went to work, I had no cell service ever, always dropped. And so I switched to T-Mobile. It works now. So I am not here in favor of Verizon, but I will say for those who do have Verizon, this would be a much needed cell tower that would provide service for those people. And so we desire to be good neighbors as a church. In fact, Kearney Farms just had a massive undergoing of construction, sewage and pipes. I'm not entirely sure what they did, but we let them use our property for the last 6 to 8 months to house their equipment, their trailers, their tractors, and all of that. So they've been good to us as a neighborhood, and we desire to be good neighbors to them as well. And so any way that we can help them, we desire to do that. And so thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Nye.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP-23-16. If there's anyone else here who did not get an opportunity to register and would like to address this application, you may come forward, state your name and your address for the record, and you will have up to 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none, Madam Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed.
Okay, now, if there's no further discussion, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Commissioner G, I move for acceptance of UP 23-16.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Curry. Madam Secretary, we have a motion and a second.
We have a motion and a second to approve.
With conditions.
With conditions, UP-23-16, and you will be voting electronically. This item is approved by a vote of 6-0 with conditions. Our next item, UP-23, is going to go out. Yeah.
Putting them buttons on.
Killing me. Our next item, UP-23-17, Collingswood. Miguel Roldan requests a use permit to operate an entertainment establishment as part of a restaurant on a portion of 2884 Airline Boulevard, parcel designated as 2860 Airline Boulevard. The parcel is located in the General Mixed Use GMU zoning district. The future land use map of the Build One Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan designates this property for mixed-use corridor. The property is owned by Michael Zarpas and is further described as Tax Map 577, Parcel 20. The staff coordinator is Valerie Malzone, and the applicant or representative is already at the podium. You may present your application at this time, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Miguel Roldan. I got the great pleasure to meet Michael Zarpas 3 months ago, and my wife and I presented the business plan that we had, and we spoke about adding a commercial kitchen to the building in order to bring quality Mexican dishes. Our culture is Mexican, so we also spoke about bringing using the drive-through that we have there. Putting a full bar, bringing crafted cocktails, and also we adding a patio in the outside of the building. We're also going to replace the roof. We're going to put a new roof at the building. We're going to upgrade the HVAC. Also, we're going to upgrade the bathrooms. We're going to be doing new flooring for all the build out, and we're also going to be adding a dumpsters and enclosure to the building. I think that's all I have.
Okay.
Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Roldan. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Not really a question. Not really a question. I have more of a comment. I just wanted to commend you for the design work you're doing with this. It's really forward thinking and really taking into account how people are eating at restaurants now. So with such a, I was first worried with such a small footprint, with it being an entertainment application, but I really appreciate the way you guys have designed this restaurant and taking into account the 3 drive-throughs, the outdoors, a great use of that space. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any additional questions? Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP-23-17. I have no registered speakers. If there's anyone here who did not get an opportunity to register and would like to address this application, you may come forward, state your name and your address for the record, and you will have up to 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none, Madam Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed.
Commissioners, is there any more discussion? If not, we are in need of a motion and a second with conditions.
Madam Chair Lady, I move to approve a UP-23-17 with conditions.
Second.
Commissioner Coleman, second. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Madam Secretary, we have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Motioned and second to approve UP-23-17. Slow down.
Lord, they're pushing the button.
And you will be voting electronically. This item is approved by a vote of 6-0 with conditions. You good?
I just want to ensure, please make sure we have really good food. Don't let us down. Thank you.
Our next item, UP-23-18, Commercial District 4. George Williams requests a use permit to operate an entertainment establishment on the approximately 9.48 acre parcel located at 4010 Victory Boulevard in Suite 4012C of the Victory Crossing Shopping Center in the General Mixed Use GMU zoning district. The future land use map of the Build One Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan designates this property for commercial-type land uses. The property is owned by Victory Crossing Marketplace LLC, Christopher Lee, and is further described as Tax Map 526, Parcel 2.2. The staff coordinator is Bill Landfair. Will the applicant or the representative for this application please come forward and present your application at this time?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Latrice Carter, and I am one of the business managers for the River Restaurant and Lounge. And we are currently open. We did our soft opening back in July as a new soul food restaurant in the area. And we are now petitioning for an entertainment permit because we would like to have live entertainment in our venue, meaning local and national jazz bands, comedy, and things of that nature. The age requirement for all of our events currently at this time is 30 and up because we don't want to get into having that younger, rowdy crowd, unfortunately. But we want to bring another level of sophistication with entertainment in the city of Portsmouth. We've also been contacted by the River Casino because they would like to, whenever they have live entertainment at their venue, to have sort of like a meet and greet or after party at our venue as well. So that's why we're here. Thank you for your time. If anyone has any questions, I'm available.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Curry? No? No? Okay.
And we have great food.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP-23-18. I have no registered speakers. If there's anyone here who did not get an opportunity to register and would like to address this application, you may come forward, state your name and your address for the record, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none, Madam Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Commissioners, if there's no further discussion, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Madam Chair, I stand to approve UP-23-18 with conditions.
Thank you, Commissioner Curry.
I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Jiggets. Madam Secretary, we have a first and a second.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have a motion and a second to approve UP-23-18. Commissioners, you will be voting electronically. This item is approved by a vote of 6-0 with conditions.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I believe that we have a update, Ms. Adamwa.
Yes, Ms. Chop will give you a brief narrative on the narrow lots.
Thank you.
Hi, Planning Commissioners. As we discussed during the work session today, a memo was provided in the Planning Commission packet regarding the narrow lot issue that is occurring in predominantly properties that are zoned GR or UR or URM and are typically in Brighton, Prentice Park, and Ebony Heights. There have been over 25 variance requests to reduce the required side yard setback in order for applicants to construct single-family dwellings on narrow lots. And the issue was raised at the May 9th City Council meeting by the chairman of the BZA, who expressed a desire for an amendment to the zoning ordinance regarding the recurring requests for variances regarding the side yard setback on these types of properties. And then on July 18th, there was a work session that was conducted between Planning Commission and the BZA to discuss the narrow lot side yard setback issue. A request from Planning Commission was heard at the August 1st meeting, and therefore the options were presented in the memo that was included in this month's packet. And at the meeting, the Planning Commission had reached a consensus where I believe option one, where the variance option would be replaced with a special exception option to include specific guidelines in order to apply for the special exception. And so as part of the new business portion of this public hearing, we are asking Planning Commission to vote on a resolution that would initiate staff to prepare an amendment as well as a staff report that would address this the side yard setback issue with a special exception.
Thank you, Ms. Chop. Commissioners, are there any questions? No? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Chop. So commissioners, Ms. Adamois, I guess we need to just make a motion and second that to initiate
For the
staff.
resolution. Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right. Commissioners, we need a motion and a second to give staff a resolution to initiate the narrow lot setbacks. And as four of us agreed for option one, can I have a motion or a second so that they could move forward? So we need a motion to approve planning staff to move forward with.
Yeah, I move that we instruct planning staff to move forward with the amendment to the zoning ordinance. It's not a hard word, regarding narrow lots, making them special exceptions versus variances.
Second.
Thank you very much, commissioners. Madam Secretary, we have a first and a second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution initiating staff to prepare amendments to the Portsmouth zoning ordinance, and you will be voting electronically. This item is approved by a vote of 5-1.
Madam Secretary, I believe this concludes our agenda for today. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Commissioners, will there be any further business? Ms. Adamois, is there any further business?
No further business, but I'd like to thank you for volunteering your time to serve on the Planning Commission. And I also like to thank staff for their hard work in getting these packages together for you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, hearing none, this meeting is now adjourned.